Welcome again to the chapter number 9. My name is Brijesh. Earlier we have covered till 8th chapter. So in this chapter we will understand the role of villages and how the towns were thriving in that time and what played an important role in the developments of the villages as well as the town. So iron tools and what was the role of agriculture and how iron tools played an important role in developments of the agriculture. Okay. The use of iron began in the subcontinent around 3000 years ago, and collections of iron tools and weapons were found in the megalithic burials. So, as we have already understood about the megalithic burials, that it was found at the different places, and the most prominent sites where the megalithic burials have been found were in the South Indian part. So, there the tools of the iron have been found. So, it provides an important information of that time that the people were aware about the iron and the utility of the iron, that how to utilize the iron to and how to make the tools so that they can cultivate the different crops and how they can clear the forest. So that plays an important role in the development of not only villages but also it paved the path for the big cities and the big kingdom, right? And as it states that the iron was began to use somewhere around 3000 years ago. So what were the other steps which increased the production of, right? So irrigation was one of the important methods which helped to uh, increase the production apart from the tools, iron tools. The new tools and the system of transplantation increased the production. Irrigation was also used. So understand that whenever in today's era as well, when we are trying to focus for the production of the crop, that so for the bumper production, what they must have done, apart from the development of the iron tools, they must have also focused on the irrigation because they by the time they must have understood the utility and the importance of the water in what seasons, what type of crops can be grown. So if you will compare from the today's time, then we also are focusing on the developing the crops which are drought resistance and less water can be used. But at that time there was no such issue because the population was not that much. That is why irrigation played an important role. So irrigation, like the water was easily available, but they need to channelize that water to the fields or to the towns where they were gradually and eventually were setting up or settling down, right? So irrigation work that are built during the time included canal, wells, tanks, and artificial lakes. So they by that time, because the big kingdoms and the empires were getting developed, so for the kings must have understood if they want to expand their kingdom and they want the thriving towns or the villages and they want to see the happy people and for the production not only for the people but also for the to operate the big kingdoms, they need money, and that time there was only one resource, that was the cultivation or the production of the crops. So better farming was the only resource, right? Farming was the only resource, so they focused on that how can they improve for that purpose. Iron along with the iron tools, the irrigation also played an important role, right? So they built the canals, wells, tanks, and artificial lakes. So at the right hand side, the iron tools have been displayed. So if these are the iron tools, these were used in that era. Set of caption tools, right? Like sickles, tongs, and axes were used to not only just to cultivate the crops but to clear the forest where they can grow the different crops, right? Let us understand the other developments and other things which help. So now the question arises that in those villages which were thriving in the kingdom who used to live in those villages. So of course we have understood that the empires were getting developed. So when the empires were getting developed, then it is very clear then the kings must have controlled the large part, right? So different people must have moved from the different parts, okay, from different kingdoms. The traders were coming, the trades were going outside, the export and import were happening. So that is how the amalgamation of the different culture, apart from the amalgamation of the different culture, the people movement were also happening. So who used to live in those villages becomes an important thing for us to understand. Three different kind of people lived in the most villages in the southern and the northern part of the subcontinent. So this is important to pay attention that what type of people used to live. Three different kind of people used to live. So we will understand who were these people in the Tamil region. In Tamil region, the large landowners were known as vellalars. So this terms become important, that who were the vellalars. So these were the large landowners in the southern India, in the Tamil region. And the ordinary plowmen were known as Ujahavars. So please remember these terms which I have already underlined and which I am emphasizing. So Vellalar were the large landowners, whereas the ordinary plowmen were known as the Ujahavars. And the landless laborers, including slaves, were known as the Kadaishiar or the Adimai. So earlier we have seen that the in the northern part, the landless laborers were called as the Kamakaras, and here in the southern part, the big landowners were called as Vellalars, whereas the ordinary plowmen were called as Ujahavars, whereas the landless laborer and the slaves were used to called as Kadaisiar or the Adimai. Right? Let us understand the people who used to live in the northern part. The headman was known as the Gram Bhojika. This post of Gram Bhojika was hereditary. It means that the who once, for an example, if I have become the Gram Bhojika, then my son and his son, and later on his son, these all will become the Gram Bhojikas. So it was, this post was hereditary. Hereditary means the after father, his son, and after that his son. So this will keep kept on going. Right. So Gram Bhojika was often the largest landowner, and the king often used him to collect taxes from the villages. So we have already understood that why the this system of collecting the taxes and the elaborated system of the different officials and officers was important. And in that time when the different kings were ruling in the different parts, so they must have developed the different systems. With that is where it becomes an important that what type of work was given to the Gram Bhojikas. Now Gram Bhojika is having a big large land. So king used to give them this work of collecting the taxes from villages, and this they also functioned as the judge and sometimes as the policeman. So they had three functions: collecting taxes, sometimes they also worked as judge, and sometimes they also worked as policemen, right? So independent farmers known as grihapatis, and most of whom were small landowners. So here Gram Bhoja. First one was the Gram Bhojikas. The second person who were there, the Grahapatis, and the Dasas and the Karmkaras, who we have already understood that the Karmkaras did not own any land and had to earn a living on working on the field owned by the others. So we also see in today's time as well, the people who do not have the land, they work on the by they work on others field on daily wages, right? But in that time probably daily wages concept was there or not, but the people who used to work on the other people's land, they were used to called as karmkaras, right? In most villages there were also some craft persons such as blacksmiths, potter, carpenters, and weavers. So it has provided us with the complete information that who were the people who were working or who were living in the different parts of the kingdom and or the villages which were settled in the part of the kingdom, right? So it has clear cut divided that the three type of people living in the southern India and three type of people were living in the northern India. So I have already emphasized enough on those terms which you need to remember, and easily a question can be asked in prelims, right? So keep this in mind. Now, this portion, this paragraph which we are going to read is really important because it talks about the earliest Tamil composition, which is known as Sangam Literature. So pay attention on this particular paragraph, right? So a straightforward question can be asked from this particular paragraph. So earliest work in Tamil known as the Sangam Literature and were composed about 2300 years ago, and these were called as the Sangam because they were supposed to have been composed and compiled in assemblies. So assemblies were known as Sangams, right? So different uh, scholars used to gather, different writers, different poets used to come together, and they must have created the literature, hence it is called as Sangams. The poets that were held in the city of Madurai, where this was written, this city was, the name of the city was Madurai. The Tamil terms mentioned above are found in the Sangam literature. The term which we have seen in the people which have been mentioned in the Southern India who were living there. So these terms are also being found in the Tamil literature, in some Sangam literature. So remember this as well. Now we will understand about the Jatakas, different travelers, sculptures, and the archaeology. So in which the Jatakas plays an important uh, role because Jataka provide an elaborate understanding not only about the Buddha's life but also provide the prominent information of that time. Right? So Jataka stories that were probably composed by ordinary people, written down and preserved by Buddhist monks. So here a story has been mentioned, and but this is of no use for us. So we will not go into the nitty-gritties of this story. The sculptures carved the scene depicting the people's life in the towns and villages as well as in the forest. So sculptures, what they did, whatever they were looking at the activities of the people, whatever was happening in the village or the surrounding areas, they were trying to copy that on their work by using their work, right? And the similar thing was also happening in the forest. And if we will look at the Jataka stories, they also used to narrate the same kind of things. They also used to narrate the life of the people who were living in the villages, and they also provide some kind of uh, ethical stories and ethical lifestyle, right? So these were the basic things which were happening, that the not only stories but the how the sculpture were carving the life or depicting the life of the people who were living there. So if you look at the right hand side, this paragraph is not important for us because it is providing the repetitive information which we have already seen. And here at the right hand side, you will see that the sculptures have carved out detailed or elaborate lifestyle of people, right? That on the stone. So they tried to depict the lifestyle of the people or the different activities which were happening in their surroundings or whatever they were able to notice. So now it is telling us about the story of Barry Gaja, which is not an important story for us because in this story no question can be asked. But we need to understand that what is the term name Barry Gaza means. So earlier in the Greek, the Baruch used to called as Barry Gaja. So in the subsequent chapters, we will look at the different ports on the different coasts, that what was their name in the earlier time, what was their name, like the Muziris was there, Tondi was there, Masulipatnam was there, Barigaza was there. So we will look it into the more detail into the next chapters when we will go for the NCERT 7 and the class 12. Then it becomes really important for us. But as of now, remember that in Greek language, Baruch used to call as Barigaja, right? Now it is talking about the coins. So basic understanding we have had in the earlier chapters. We just looked at that the punch mark coins were the prevalent in the 6th century BCE, but not prior to that. So it is providing the same information here about the punch mark coins. So punch mark coins were generally rectangular or sometimes square or round in the shape. So remember that it is not particular that there was any specific shape, because they were found in the different shapes, like square was there and it was also round shape. So these were either cut out of a metal sheet or made out of flattened metal globals. The coins were not inscribed but were stamped with the symbol using the dies or punch. So now understand this particular line. The coins were not inscribed, rather than, if you will look here, that it looks like that somebody must have punched it. So in today as well, we will if we see that there are several mechanical machines, by using that we punch several things. So it was not inscribed, rather than it was punched, right? So there was a metal sheet out of it, was cut out of that and it was punched. Okay, and hence this name was given, that these are the punch marked one, right? So that on the one side it looks like this, on the other side it looks like plain. So symbols using dies or punches, hence they are called as the punch mark. These coins are found over most part of the subcontinent and remained in circulation till early centuries CE. Since we understand that the later on, the as the kingdoms developed and the different kings and the dynasties ruled over the India, so they also changed the pattern of the coins. And prior to the 6th century BCE, there was a barter system, in which what happens that in the exchange of anything, a person receives something. For an example, in the exchange of grains, somebody could give a coconut, or in the exchange of a coconut, some grains can be get. So these were the things. So barter system, it means somebody is providing something else, and in the exchange, they are providing something else, right? So there was no system of coins or the currency. This is important for us to understand. This system of coins started in somewhere around 6th century BCE. The earliest coins which were used for about 500 years were the punchmark coins, which we were just understanding. So this was the history of these punchmark coins. So we were understanding the just now about the barter system. So this particular paragraph is also talking about the barter system. Like there was a poem in the Sangam collection, so it was telling about the barter system, right? So they were selling the salt, and in the exchange of the salt, the required things were given to them, and so there was an exchange of salt and the thing which was required, right? So different trader used to bring the salt to the another area, and they used to provide the salt, and they must have collected the grains or whatever these people required for their consumption and for the daily requirement. So this was the barter system. So cities had many functions. So let us understand these functions. So Mathura has been an important settlement for more than 2500 years. It was located at the crossroads of the two major roads of the travel and trade, from the north west to east and from north to south. So Mathura was somewhere like what it is providing, that northwest to east. So somewhere like this, okay, and from north south. So this was kind of an arrangement, and Mathura was crossroad of these trade routes. So it becomes an important, because whenever the traders moving from these routes, right, whenever any traders moving from these routes, so this becomes an important center of not only for the trade or exchange, but also the cultural amalgamation, because the different traders bring different type of culture or different type of things. They not only buy things, they also sell. So it also provides some type of monetary exchange, and hence cities grows in terms of they become rich, right? So how it become rich? Not only in cultural prospect, but in monetary aspects as well. So Mathura was also a center where some extreme file in sculpture was produced. So now we can understand that if the sculpture were being produced, so the trader used to get the sculpture from here, and they must have either sold it here or they must have sold it here, or sometimes probably the people who are moving, the traders who are moving from north to south or south to north, they must have collected the sculpture from here and must have sold into the north or either into the south, right? So this also plays an important role for the trade as well. So around 2000 years ago, the Mathura became the second capital of the Kushanas, because Kushana played an important role and they gave the Mathura a prominent place in the history, right? And it became the second capital because any king would want to have the control on a place where the trade routes are going through. And since it was on the center, so and the Kushanas were ruling at that time in the northwest, and they moved into the eastern part and the center part of the India. So they also controlled this portion, and it provided them with the huge control on the trade, right? So let me just give me a moment. All right. So let us understand the further developments, that why Kushanas also controlled this part and how it played an important role. So there were the Buddhist monasteries, Jaina shrines, and it was an important center for worship of Krishna. So as we understand that today also Mathura is very prominent place for the Krishna, right? And thousands and not thousands, crores visitors every year visits to these places, specifically the part of the Mathura, right? So in that era, not only it was prominent center for the Krishna worship, but also a part of the like very important shrine for the monasteries of Buddha monasteries, and for the Jaina shrines were also found, because these were the prominent center for the Jaina and the Buddhist religion as well, right? So it becomes important that there was not only dominance of one religion, rather than there were several religion were parallelly being followed by the different followers, right? So remember this. So their short descriptions have also been found in the Mathura, and it records the gift made by the different men and women to the monasteries and shrines. So we understand then that today as well as in this Indian subcontinent, we have this culture of donating something whenever we are visiting any temple or any place of religious importance. We always try to donate something so that we can contribute from our end for uh, to not only help to the religious institution, but the religious institution also help to the poor people or the other sections of the society. So that is how we want to have some contribution. So this was sort of things were also there in that time. So as we have already understood that the culture always move forwards, so it must have come from that time, right? For the instances, the inscription of the Mathura mentioned the goldsmith, blacksmiths, weaver, basket makers, garland makers, and perfumers. So we understand that whenever there is a thriving temple or the thriving place of the religious importance, so it is definitely different type of people used to come and used to settle there, and of course these people who were making the garlands and the perfumes must have settled. So it is also providing us the information that what type of people used to live in the uh, vicinity of Mathura, or in the places of like where the Mathura was, right? So now it is talking about the crafts and the craft persons. So archaeological evidence for the crafts known as the northern black polished ware. So remember this. Earlier we have also talked about the potteries in the Harappan civilizations, right? So this also becomes an important that what type of pottery have been found in this place. So northern black polished ware have been found. So let us understand something about the northern black polished ware. In the left hand side in this box, I have already mentioned, right? So let us understand that it is a hard wheel made metallic looking ware with a shiny black surface. So we understand that black polished ware means it was black, not only black but also polished. It must have been shined. That is why they have called it as polished. The potters used to expose the earthenware to very high temperature in kiln, and which resulted in the blackening of its outer surface. A fine black slip was also applied on this, which gave the pottery a mirror-like shine. So it not only providing us the information that how they used to make it, but also providing the information that how they used to decorate it, because they also understood the importance of the aesthetics and how to decorate, so they can sell it on the good price, right? Because we have already understood that the trade was a prominent thing for the Mathura. So these people must have made the best potteries to sell it to the people who were coming for the trade, right? So it's named from the fact that it is generally found in the northern part of the subcontinent, hence the name Northern Black Polished Ware. So we know from the text that the manufacture of the clothes was important, and there were famous center for such as Varanasi in the north and Madurai in the south. So now the two important places which has been mentioned, uh, those were famous for the cloth. First is Varanasi and second is Madurai. So today also we see that South India is very famous for the different type of silk made saris, and in the Varanasi is also famous for the silk made saris, right? So these both places were not only prominent today also, but also prominent in that time. These were the famous places for the cloth making. So many craft person and the merchants now formed the association, and these associations known as Shrenis. So pay utmost attention on this, that the who were the Shrenis and who made the Shrenis. So this question itself become very important, right? So many craftsmen persons, like the trader people, the who were trading in that part, they came together and they formed the association, and these association used to called as Shrenis. And what was the importance of the Shrenis? Shrenis provided the training to procure raw materials and distributed the finished product. So these were the importance of the Shrenis. But Shrenis also played an important role in terms of providing the finances. Shrenis also served as the banks, and where the rich men and the women deposited monies, because earlier time there was no concept of banks. So what Shrenis did, that Shrenis they came together and they made some type of arrangement, and they served as a bank where the people could deposit not only money, but they can also these Shrenis also used to invest this money, and the part of the interest or the profits used to be shared with the people who have invested with them, right? So Shrenis not only played an important role for the trade, but also played an important role for the finances as well. This provided the stability not only to the subcontinent, for the people as well, and because of that the people used to stay in that area, right? So this part of interest was provided to the people who invested in these Shrenis, and used to support the religious institutions such as monasteries, since we have already understood that these monasteries also used to provide the uh, importance of places to the people who were there, like the monks and the nuns, and they were also serving to the different parts of the society, right? So they also played an important role. So the rules of spinning and weaving. So Arthashastra has mentioned the rules of spinning and weaving, and it is important to understand the rules. So let us understand. Let us read this paragraph. Then you would be able to understand that what type of rules were prevalent, and do we also see some types of subtype of the rules which have been followed in today's as well, in today's time as well. So yes, let us understand. The widows, young women who are differently abled, nuns, mothers, courtesans, and retired women, servants of the king, women who have retired from the services in temple, may be used for processing wool, bark, cotton, hemp, and flax. So it has provided the different sections of the society, that who, what type of people, and who are the women who can participate in making the wool, right? So they should be paid according to the quality and the quantity of the work. So definitely we see that as per the quality and the quantity, we also in today's era also we like to pay, right? So that time also they were following the same rules. So the women who are not permitted to leave their homes, they can also send the maid servant to bring the raw material from the superintendent and take the finished work back to the him. So understand that if women is not allowed to go out, then what she can do, that she must have had some type of slave, and those slave women used to work for her. They used to go to the superintendent who used to provide these type of work of wool, bark and cotton, hemp and the flax, these type of work. So they used to collect it for the lady for whom they were working, used to provide it. They used to work on that thing, and after completing whatever the work was assigned to them, after completing it, they used to take back to the superintendent, right? So this was the process. So women who can visit the workshop, it also has provided the rule about the women who can work, who can visit the workshop should go at the dawn. So there were the clear cut instruction that what time they need to go, right? They need to go, should go at the dawn to give their work and receive their wages on the daily basis. And there should be enough light to examine the work, of course, because in today's we have the electricity and the other resources of the light, but at that time there were the limited resources, and these work used to be very like important. And so the person who is checking or examining, it should be in broad daylight, right? That is why the light becomes an important, and that is why it was instructed to the people who were working to provide the work before the dawn or at the dawn. In cases of the superintendent looks at the women or talks about the anything other than the work, that he should be punished. So they have also mentioned about the rules that if superintendent abuses a woman or try to abuse the women, then they can be, or they, if they go to the king or to the whosoever the superintendent used to work or provide the information, then the person can directly reach out that this specific person has done these kind of things, or he or she has talked about anything apart from the work. Then there was the rules for punishment as well, right? So today also we see that these rules have been in the offices and the different workplaces, we see. So these type of rules were also there, right? If a woman does not complete her work, she will have to pay a fine and her thumbs can be cut off. So these rules were sometimes very harsh. If the woman has not completed the work, then her thumbs can be chopped off. So these were the elaborate rules which have been provided in the Arthashastra, right? So remember this. So not all the entire story is important, that what type of rules were there, and the how the women were the protected when they were working. So this becomes important, only these things. So now it is talking about the Arikamadu is in Puducherry, and between 2200 or 1900 years ago, Arikamadu was a coastal settlement where the ships unloaded and the goods from the distant lands. So a question has been asked in the UPSC directly about the Arikamadu, that what is it? A massive brick structure which may have been warehouse was found at the site. So what is it? It was a warehouse. So it was on the coastal area, okay, in the Puducherry, where the traders who were coming through the ships, they used to unload their things, or they used to load the different things which they were purchasing from the hinterlands of the India, right? So pottery from the Mediterranean, so it is also talking about a pottery. So pottery from a Mediterranean region such as amphor. What is the amphor? A tall double-handed jars that contained liquids such as wine or oil. So this amphor, which is it is talking, so it used to be belong to the Mediterranean region, and it used to contain the liquids such as wine or oil, and stamped with the red glazed pottery. So it was such type of red glazed pottery known as the as ware. So not only the M4, it is also talking about the ware, right? So it was red glazed pottery. So it was named after city in Italy. So definitely this Aretine must have been the city in the Italy. Hence, this name of the pottery has been kept on this particular city. So for us, Arikamedu becomes important. Where is it? It becomes important. What is it? It becomes important. This particular pottery, M4, and what region it belongs to, then Aretine where, and the which city it has been named. Right. So these terms becomes important for us. So Roman lamps, glasswares, and the gems have been found at these sites. Right? So these were the things which have been found at the Arikamedu and why it was important. So what was the other developments were happening in the different parts? So let us understand that as well. So Rome was the capital of the largest empire that spread across the Europe, North Africa, and the West Asia. So the expansion of the Rome has been defined that it was expanded till like Europe, North Africa, and the West Asia. And there was an important king, Augustus, one of the most important emperors who ruled about 2000 years ago. So Augustus was a prominent ruler somewhere around 2000 years ago. It is said that he founded the Rome, a city of bricks, and made it into a city of marble. So it he constructed founded this city, and it took to the prominent of making it to the marble. So it talks about the richness of that area, that how that person, this king, made this particular kingdom so rich that from the bricks they started using marble. So they also built the huge amphitheaters. So what are the amphitheaters? So it becomes, this particular terms becomes important for us. So amphitheaters are the open areas surrounded by the tiers of seats where the citizens could watch all kind of shows, and public baths were there. So the public baths with the separate timings for the men and women, where the people met and relaxed. So this was the amphitheater, or this type of facilities were available in this particular premises. Right. So remember this, keep this thing in mind. So we have understood about in this particular chapter about the that how cities thrives and what was the role of the irrigation and the iron tools. Then we also see the important locations such as Mathura and why it was important for the Kushana rulers as well. And later on we understood the different potteries which were available in this portion, right? And also understood that what was happening similarly in the Rome, and there was a ruler named Augustus, and how he built the city and took it to the next portion, to the richness, right? And what are the amphitheaters, and we also read about the Arikamedu, right? And we have also understood that the Arikamedu was like a question has already been asked about the Arikamedu, and we also seen about the Arthashastra, its role, and different rules which have been proposed by it. So we have seen a lot of things. So try to revise this chapter, and I will see you into the next chapter. Till then, keep on revising.